Guys, thank you all so much. We are live again tonight. It's Friday night, guys. Many of you, I'm sure it's Friday Night Lights somewhere out there. We are on Stand Up, Stand Out America this Friday night. Yours truly, La Conservadora Tejana, Bianca, Gracia. Tonight, I'm going to be bringing on some special guests that I'm going local, guys. And normally I try to bring in people from all over the country, but this time I'm going to go local because I live in Harris County. And you guys know Harris County's been all over the news. People know Harris County. It's kind of been a hot spot, trouble area. We got all kinds of local issues going on. So I'm going to bring in a candidate and a president of an association here. I want y'all to welcome these gentlemen onto our show today. I'm going to bring on Chris Daniel, who is running for the district clerk's office here in Harris County. And joining us also is going to be Mr. Mario Garza. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know it's Friday night. I know it's a busy night, but let me tell you guys, the news never stops, right? There's breaking news minute on the minute, and if we don't stay on top of it, you know, we lose out. So I felt it was really important for me to bring you on, Chris Daniel. I know you've been out there in Harris County, really working the ground, trying to get back into office here, and you know, I guess go clean up, you know, a clerk's office, clean up some mess. Maybe it's like spill on aisle 11 over here. So it's like, you know, we know you've been out there and really talking to everybody. Chris, the one thing I think I've been really impressed with you is to see you talking to independents. You're talking to, you know, Democrats. You're talking to obviously Republicans. You are out there in the community really talking to people, getting people to know you, and say, hey, look, I want to be your next district clerk. And, you know, and you're just out there. So I really admire that because, you know, the environment out there right now, Chris, is there's the party lines are just it's either this way or this way, and
black or white.
No one wants to come to the table and actually have just a conversation. Looks like, you know, the party systems have either gone so far, you know, left, and then you know, they say the other side has gone so far right. And, you know, people like to call me an extremist. They say I'm a hard right. And I just kind of laugh about that. I'm like, okay, so because I love God, family, and country, that makes me an extremist. But you know what? This is the times that we live in. So, you know,
we can even put it in terms for the millennials. They've turned it into like a Sith Lord. It's no longer whether or not you're Luke Skywalker or Obi-Wan. It's only Darth Vader. You're either with me or against me. And that's not useful. That's not helpful. And we can't get anything done like that.
You're right. You're exactly right. Mario Garza, let's introduce you to our audience as well. You are the Harris County President, Professional Bondsman Association. So I'm going to have Chris here in a little bit. I'm going to go back and shift to you. But Mario, because I think for most people, they'll be like, okay, Harris County District Clerk. It kind of makes sense. But Bondsman Association, can you tell us a little bit about that? What is y'all's duties? What do you represent? I was talking to you behind scene, and you said, you know, you guys are small business owners. Tell us a little bit about this industry.
Well, the industry before bail reform was there was an equal balance. There was a partnership with the judges, with the courts, with police officers. That's why bail worked, because we were responsible for getting defendants to court. If you remember anything about our discussion right now, remember that we all want the same thing in the criminal justice system. We all want the defendant to go to court.
Right.
The victim does, the judge does, the bondsman does. Our reasons might be different, but we all want the same thing. That's why bondsmen in the criminal justice system work. When you started to cut us out, that's when you saw crime rise, because there was no accountability. We are an accountability component by requiring, for instance, let me give you one example real quick. Somebody's in your family's arrested and their bond's $100,000. Well, if you don't have $100,000, then you go to a bondsman who's going to require 10%. You're going to pay that 10%, more than likely without collateral. So if that defendant doesn't go to court, the bondsman himself, being a small business owner, is ultimately responsible for $100,000 if that defendant doesn't go to court. He writes that check to the county. That's why we are so, and we're a small business, but we're also self-sufficient. We don't cost the county any kind of money by tracking down the defendant. We hire bounty hunters, our fugitive recovery people. That's on our dime. That's on our money. So that was the balance that we had.
Dog the bounty hunter.
And the thing that changed was that judges used to know to hold people, violent criminals, on zero bond.
Right.
When they stopped doing that, then you started seeing people make bonds on capital murder and then violate terms of the condition of that bond and get back out again or not have their bond revoked. So they're out here running around on no curfew, violating their ankle monitor. And that was where the balance was I really didn't understand how delicate that balance was until it went off the rails. And then I understood our importance in it.
Right. So Mario, I know that didn't Harris County, and correct me if I'm wrong, was it the county commissioner's court or was it the DA's office that kind of went through and said, hey, we're going to start doing this zero bond? Did that affect your business?
It
Absolutely.
was the lawsuit, the O'Donnell.
The O'Donnell, yeah. Yeah, the O'Donnell case was filed in 2017, but
Federal
Commissioner's Court, federal court, but O'Donnell, the Commissioner's Court settled that in 2019.
Okay.
And then it allowed, what it aimed for was to let out 85% of misdemeanor defendants on either $100 bond or zero, being a personal recognizance bond, where they basically sign a piece of paper promising to come back.
I call them Mickey Mouse bonds.
So
that's when it started.
Would you say, Mario, that, I know people will argue and say, well, they're just misdemeanors. Would you say, in your line of business, would you say that those people were not returned, even if it was just a misdemeanor? Did you see a high rate of those that didn't return to court?
Well, yes. The numbers recently, as of a month ago, were that 80% of those PR bonds were failing to appear.
80%.
Wow.
And bail bondsmen were only failure to appear was 10%.
So 10% with small private business handling it, or 80% with the Democrats handling it.
Wow.
With pretrial services trying to do it, yeah.
Right. Wow. And I was telling you behind the scenes, I used to work pretrial. I worked Harris County pretrial when I first moved to Harris County. And then I've also worked in the federal court for pretrial as well. So and that was a long time ago, but yeah. So thank you. Hold on to that thought. I want to go back to you, Chris, Daniel. Chris, being a Harris County district clerk, what are the major responsibilities of that office?
Well, let's put it in terms for our national audience, because only in Texas is it called a district clerk. In all other states, like if you're in Seattle or if you're in Chicago, if you're in Las Vegas, it will be called the clerk of the courts. So when you're in Boston, you have a civil clerk of the court and a criminal clerk of the court. Here in Texas, we have just one clerk of the court for each county called the district clerk. I'm responsible for the court records mostly. And then, of course, jury duty. So audience members, welcome to jury duty. I'm kidding. But those are the two primary functions. There's a lot of other smaller duties, like sitting on the bail bond board, like handling the bank account for the court system, so that if Mario and I have a lawsuit and we have a large amount of money in dispute, we would set that money aside in escrow in the court's bank system called the court registry. We also handle passports. And this was key to the Tejana and Chicano to communities here in Houston, because the post office was having such a terrible time processing passports. We finally had an opportunity to do that at the county, and we were doing a great deal with that until the current district clerk decided to cancel that program. But the point is that the two primary duties, district clerk, clerk of the court,
right,
court records, jury duty.
So let me ask you this. What are you hearing right now with this administration that's in right now? What are the issues and the problems that the county is facing right now?
Well, As you can imagine, if someone has no IT experience, or if they have no legal experience, or they've never stepped foot in the courthouse before, if they were to then take over the largest criminal justice system in the state of Texas, the thing might go off the rails. And it has. And it's not only affecting the defense attorneys who are traditionally Democrat and the plaintiffs' attorneys who are traditionally Democrat, but also the public as a whole. They want to have access to their court records. It's the public's money that's paying for these court records. Therefore, these are public record, and they can't look them up online because the system is constantly crashing or going down or having glitches, or worse, the clerks are misfiling things so that we're having catastrophic errors that affect
Wow.
not only the bonding industry when they're trying to find out, is this guy even in jail? But also letting out defendants on clerical errors where they're supposed to get a $100,000 bond. They leave off a zero. Next thing you know, the guy's getting out on a $1,500 bond. And these clerical errors are letting murderers out on the street. And when the system goes down entirely, you have 24 hours or 48 hours to fix it until you legally have to release that defendant, no matter how egregious the crime. And so we've had not one, not two, but at least 5 on the record failures, one of which led to 300 defendants being released simultaneously and all at once.
Unbelievable.
Exactly. It's a public safety issue.
So, and do you think, Chris, I mean, I know it's just Harris County, but I mean, national news is crime rate is up all over the country, especially in big metropolitan cities. Okay.
Right.
New York, California, Chicago. Well, Chicago is always, I mean, it's like no one really ever talks about it, but the crime rate has gone up tremendously across the nation. Would you say that maybe a lot of people don't realize that you guys, bondsmen, clerks, the clerks of the court, your jobs are also pivotal in all of this. So
overlooked all the time. Overlooked all the time.
I guarantee you, patriots out there do not know that a computer technical glitch could cause the release of hundreds of people because something isn't going right. I guarantee you, people don't know that. They don't know.
The link between all that you guys are discussing. Everywhere where bail reform has been tried, their cities are falling apart.
It fails.
Everything, New York, California, Atlanta, Chicago,
Portland,
New Jersey, everywhere where they've tried to implement bail reform, it rips the whole city apart. Everything from infrastructure to IT to court records, it just wreaks disaster. Businesses leave.
And think about it, Bianca. It's like taking a sledgehammer to go smash an ant. There is a problem. The problem that is posed by John Oliver and others on the left side of media is that poor people that are in jail are more likely to reoffend or be found guilty or lose their job, etc., if they're left in jail. What they're kind of mixing the waters on, and he will tell you this, is that you have a stark difference between a defendant who's at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they usually have never been in the wrong place or wrong time before, and a repeat offender who's being treated as if it is his first offense. And this is treating everyone like it's their first offense. And that's a bastardization of what you remember in the pretrial services. You would not recognize the protocol and procedures that are being practiced today in state district court.
Unbelievable.
Bianca.
Yes.
Since bail reform was dressed up under race.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about that. What I'm going to say is, and I identify as a moderate Democrat, but I cannot defend what the Democratic Party is pushing now. And that when I say that, what I mean is that since it was dressed up under race to help Blacks and Latinos, we are the ones that are being murdered.
Right.
And nobody talks about the victims of that bail reform.
Nobody talks about that.
And
Mario, this is so interesting that you say I'm a moderate Democrat. I've talked to, and not on my podcast, but I have heard the sentiment out there, and this is throughout the country, not just here in Harris County, but I have heard from people even locally here that have said, I've been a moderate Democrat, or I've been a Democrat. Maybe don't use the word moderate, but I've been a Democrat, but they no longer recognize their party. You see right now a mass exodus of our Latinos exiting the Democrat Party because, and with all due respect, Chris, but I tell this to people. I tell it to people across the country when I speak. I said, you know what? do not take this offensive, because I don't, if you need a safe little space to go cry about it, go do that. But I'm going to tell you how it is. I always do. One of the things is, for me, is that Latinos or Hispanics, Tejanos, whatever you want to call us, but our Hispanics, we're traditionally probably more conservative than white people, period. Yeah. We don't believe in killing our babies. Right. Okay, I'm sorry, but my abuelita would have never. See, if you got pregnant at 15 years old, you're gonna guess what? It's your responsibility. Allá querías andar en las calles, so guess what? Now you're gonna have a baby to feed. They didn't say, oh, let's go take you to Planned Parenthood right now. This doesn't exist in our community. We love our family. This is why we procreate. We love familia. We are about fellowship. We love God. I think I would say 98, 99% of Latinos have some kind of rosary, crucifix, Bible, Jesus, something. We're faithful people. And I said, just those things alone right now is a conservative platform, which people are finding to be offensive. I'm like, they don't want God. They don't want family. They want to destroy the family. So it's very interesting that you tell me this, but you know what? This is interesting, Mario. And I'm glad we're going to have this conversation, because I have been seeing this across the board too. That the left championed these policies that they were saying they were going to fight for the minorities, right? The minorities are always the ones that always get the bad end of the stick. But what has happened is they've taken this policy and been so progressively liberal to the left with a communist Marxist agenda behind it that it's actually hurting our communities now. It's hurting us. It's hurting small businesses. It's hurting, the court systems. It's hurting us. It's no common sense anymore. So Mario, what do you got to say about that? Because look, you're a small business owner. You're a moderate Democrat. You're kind of agreeing with me here. You know that there's issues and problems, and we need to be able to communicate, go to the table and say, how do we fix these issues?
I said this on a show yesterday with Chris. As walking the streets with judicial candidates now and getting involved in campaigns and switching over voting Republican now, you know what I found out about myself and about being Democrat is that we become conservative when we build ourselves out of poverty.
Right.
And when we build that, we don't have a lot of tolerance for those that are still crying about government helping me. So we that's how we become conservative. We were always conservative.
Yes.
But we're not looking for our handout. We're pissed off at those that are going, what are you going to do for me, government? And I think to myself, like I said, Chris, I remember that Democrat that said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Remember that guy?
Yes.
I remember it.
And
I remember it, Mario. I was a JFK. I love JFK. Listen, I think that nowadays I go back and I'm like, the Democrat Party of today is definitely not the JFK party anymore.
Correct.
I don't even think JFK would vote Democrat during this time. I mean, I don't think people can recognize that. But anyway, go ahead, Mario. I'm going to let you finish your thoughts.
Well, what I wanted to say is this, and because I have to talk to my clients who are getting free bonds, right? And they're going, yeah, I got a free bond. And they come in my office. You know what I tell them? I said, this free bond is not going to help you in the long run. It's going to make you worse. And they say, well, how do you know? What do you mean by that? I said, food stamps and subsidized housing under LBJ didn't help us as a people 57 years later.
Nope.
I said, and the worst thing about the Democratic Party, what it's selling us now is it's selling.
Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Okay.
Yeah, we're here. Okay.
It's selling victimization.
Yes.
And then the thing about that, and then let me just finish this, and then
no, go ahead.
What I want to say is that the greatest power that Blacks and Latinos have is to hold their own people accountable when they're doing wrong. To defend them when the system is mistreating them, we defend them. But the wisdom to know the difference.
Yep.
That's why we have to have a conversation about race, but we won't have credibility in that conversation if we don't take accountability for what our own people are doing to each other.
This is what Candace Owens is really talking about out in, she's the Blexit movement, but she's never said, hey, Blexit and go leave the Democrat Party and go to the Republican Party. She's literally, her message is become free thinkers. You know, the
Right.
minority groups become free thinkers. That's what you have to do. You can't let one or the other own you, you know, and tell you what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and be the victim. And she talks about this. It's a victimization. If you live in
Right.
that victimization mentality, and look, I grew up in the barrio. Okay, when you grow up in the barrio, you begin to become the victim, right? You think everything's against you. Well, I can't get ahead because you make excuses for everything. You really do, but you never get conditioned to think differently and say, well, you know what am I going to do about it? See, I
Right.
was a strong-willed child in my family. So I was the first one. My family would have, if I probably wouldn't have broken the cycle. I'm not sure what would happen with the rest of my brothers and sisters, but my older brother and sister, you know, the typical Hispanic, they dropped out of school at ninth grade. They went and started having a family, got on, you know, we're in government assistance. But me, I was like, I want to go to college. And my parents were like, college? ¿Qué es eso? You know, like that was unheard of. But I was a strong-willed child that wanted to do better for myself. But when I was living in the barrio, it's real easy. Your friends, your neighbors, you become what that community is, right? And if nobody's sitting there going, hey, you know, we should all go to school. We should do something. Or what are you going to invent? I mean, we need to be creative. Right. We're a very smart community. We're you know, we are entrepreneurs by nature. So this is great conversation, Mario, that you really touch on. That is that we need to teach our Hispanics, our communities, to not be victim minded. And you're exactly right.
Yeah, to give you a little background on me, I was a paralegal, criminal, and civil, and I've been to jail 5 times in my life.
Wow.
So I've been on every side of it, and never and by taking accountability for my own behavior, that was the only way reform happened.
Wow.
Was it an easy? It wasn't an easy thing to swallow, but looking back today, I'm glad that was part of my learning experience, and that's what I pass on to. I said, you walk around with that chip on your shoulder, like somebody owes you something, or I got more because you got less. That's why they got us fighting with each other.
Yes.
Well, you got more because I have less, and it's like, no, you didn't factor in hard work. You didn't factor in the fact that I was, you know, I overcame.
18-hour
even
days.
against the.
Yes.
And that's why I said
we are overcomers.
Right. And that's why I tell my story. I'm not proud of those moments, but it's part of who I am.
It's part of who you are.
It's part of who I am to say, look, if I can do it, then you can do it.
So you're in a perfect, but Mario, you're in a perfect, you know, what you do now, your small business is a bondsman, but also now you're the president of the whole association.
Right.
Like, you know, it's like when I was a teacher and I had the you know, ESL kids in my class, you know what, they'd be like, miss, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I would tell my kids, you know what, if you decide, that's fine. If you don't need to live rich or anything, but if you decide that you want to work at McDonald's and you know, you just want to flip burgers, become the freaking best flipping burger person you can be. Because one day you can be the manager and one day you can actually own the McDonald's. And I would tell the kids that. They'd be like, miss, you're crazy. I'm like, but it's true. Why would I just say, hey, just go, just get here. Let me just pass you. You can go dig a ditch and I don't really care what you do. But I tried to instill that in their mind to say, you know what my point was is take pride in what you do. So you're a perfect example of that person who you have overcome some challenges and some obstacles in your life, but you became a business owner. And now the crazy thing is you've been in and out of jail yourself, but yet now you're a bondsman and you're trying to make sure people go back to jail and take responsibility. That is what a true leader of a community does. And so this
I've written letters to courts on their behalf to get to beg the judge or ask the judge, hey, give this person probation. They were out on bond with me for a whole year. They went back to school. They got their GED. They started taking parenting classes. I see people evolve into better people sometimes. And I'll go on the line for them and I'll go to court and I'll say, Judge, I wrote this letter saying, please don't send them to prison. Give them probation this time. And I don't do that for many people. But when I believe in you, I will, because I've been there. Right. I've been in that position. And that's why I said, look, this is what a job is. Whether you flip burgers, whether you dig ditches. Right. What people forget about work is that it gives you self-respect.
Yes.
Going to work, earning a paycheck, well, no matter how much money it is, you come home with a sense of self-respect that you don't get from slanging dope, pimping hoes, and doing all the things that people do. You don't get that.
That's right.
You get the self-respect to know that it's honest money.
That's right. That's right. And it's who our culture is. I mean, my abuelitos, they were hard workers. My parents
right.
are hard workers. They work 12, sometimes 18 hours a day. They were hard workers. So this is, I don't know if you guys know who General Flynn is, but General Michael Flynn, he worked for President Trump's administration. He was the NSA, but he was like a 30-year general. He says his motto, his logo, motto right now is local action equals national impact.
Right.
So you guys are here locally. You're talking about what you are doing here locally. How do you guys work together? Because I know that Mario, you're not running for office. You're a president of an association, but here we have Chris Daniels, who is running for the Harris County District Clerk. How do we help each other to clean up Harris County? And to make sure that, that the system works well, that it's functioning. We don't have errors and people running around the streets and just leaving. Chris, how do you guys work together to make sure that our county gets back up to some kind to par?
So part of what's been happening is the Bail Bond Association's been using the district clerk database, much to the dismay of the Democrats, against them to show the statistics, to show the volume, to show the actual effect it's having on these court dockets, where these defendants are being let out on Mickey Mouse bonds, they're being rearrested and let out again as much as 5 times in a single day. And how there's no incentive whatsoever for that defendant to follow any of the programs, because they know they're not going to go to trial for up to 4 years. They know that all they have to ask for is a jury trial, and the jury backlog alone in the criminal courts, there's 130,000 criminal cases, never mind civil or family, God forbid you have to get a divorce, that are behind in Harris County right now. It is catastrophic. So sharing that data, we're working hand in hand and saying, look, this is the problem that you Democrats have created.
So Chris, but that's the thing, Bianca.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
That's the thing, that there was always a good partnership before bail reform. We worked with Chris Daniels before. We worked with the courts before. If a judge had a problem with a defendant, they could pick up the phone and call the bondsman and say, hey, I want this guy here tomorrow because I have a problem with him checking in. We'd get on the phone. Now there's no more partnerships.
Right.
They don't want to talk to us. They don't want our input. We could have told them the bail reform was going to fail, and look at the lives that it costs because their lack of engagement. We don't like you, bondsmen, because you're greedy. Well, hold on a second. We make decisions on millions of dollars worth of bonds without a crystal ball, without a credit check, because most of these families are not credit worthy to begin with. But we still do it, and we still have the lowest failure to appear rate compared to pretrial services.
Mario, for our national listeners, do you mind sharing how much you're currently liable for your small business alone as far as bail bonds outstanding?
Yeah, that'd be
I've got
great.
I've got $7 million worth of bonds out, and
So
95% of it is not collateralized, so there's no collateral. I'm walking a tightrope with no net.
So if they all walk tomorrow and there's no Dog the Bounty Hunter to go get him, he is losing his shirt on $7 million.
I go out of business.
Yep.
Wow. So I guarantee you people don't really know this.
No.
I think our patriots out there really don't know that there's, they forget, they just think it's just the judge. It's like when I worked for pretrial, they thought that it was just literally the judge. There's a whole bunch of people in the middle also making decisions. People don't realize that. They just think, oh, it's just the criminal, the judge, and the district attorney. Attorney. They think that that's it. And I'm like, no, there's actually like a whole bunch of other, workforce behind them that are making these decisions.
And that costs real taxpayer money. And I give this analogy because you might remember, or your parents might remember, that if you went to a pharmacy in 1950 and it was a penny a pill that you had to take every day, or you could take a $50 pill once a month, which pill do you think they were taking if you were paying out of pocket?
Exactly.
The penny pill. So once the government started taking over with Medicare and Medicaid, if you're being offered the $50 pill, but you don't have to pay, hell, you don't even know it costs $50. Which one are you going to take? The once a month or the once every day? You're going to take the once a month, of course, no brainer. So now we have this bail reform, and they're saying, oh, it's free pretrial bond, free Mickey Mouse bond. Meanwhile, you've got to pay for the P-test, you've got to pay for the ankle monitor, you've got to pay for the probation officer, you've got to pay for pretrial services, you've got to pay for the follow-up, any classes that you have to take, especially if it's sobriety or alcohol or drug-related. And all this adds up, and many of this can be tacked on after the fact without the defendant even knowing that he's going to owe this to the courts. And surprise, surprise, he can't pay it. So what's he going to do? He's going to commit more crimes to pay the bill that he's got in front of him. It's a circular system that is designed to fail, whereas it was working before the O'Donnells, this federal lawsuit that happened in Harris County.
Well, here's some context, Bianca. In 2019, we had 30,000 criminal cases. Now we have 150,000 criminal cases.
Oh my God!
So the system itself is breaking down. So what do prosecutors have to do in that situation? They have to dismiss cases even though they're not innocent. So what does that embolden the criminal to go, hey, I got dismissed. I didn't do anything wrong. You see? So he's emboldened to go out and go do it again, even though it wasn't a true dismissal. It was just the fact that the system's breaking down and they're having to hand them out. What does that do for victims who go, I get no justice, even though I know he did what he did to me?
Yes.
Now you know why the DA, who's a Democrat, by the way, is complaining loudly that she has one of the lowest paid DA's offices in the country, and the public defender designed to get these people out of jail is being paid one of the highest. And that disparity, you go, wait a minute, who are we emboldening here? We're emboldening the criminal and we're punishing the victim. And this is wrong. This is backwards. It's designed to break the system.
And then you add in the whole defund the police into the whole criminal system, justice system. You know, although again, Mario, we go back to what the comment you made. You know, they push these policies that say, well, you know, the minority community is the one that suffers the most. Okay, so let's talk about some real solutions. But instead, they push this policy that now not in the long run ends up hurting us. Now we got a justice system that's completely falling apart. Instead of fixing it, we've now they went so extreme to say, okay, just defund the whole police. Well, that wasn't the whole. Okay, like that's not the solution. You may have some bad apples, but you don't say defund the whole freaking workforce. And then you got this kind of broken system going on where the bondsmen can't do their job. And now you got, you know, some other entity over here making decisions and you don't know who's coming back to court. And Chris, you got technical errors happening. And so all 300 people a night could be dismissed. You're just saying, Mario, hey, it goes a step further than that. The DAs are so backlogged that now they're having to dismiss cases on people who probably did really do something bad, but they don't have time because that's a lot of cases.
Yes.
That's a big jump in cases. That's not even just a spike in crime.
No,
but
and
now
it's
we don't
manufactured that way.
Yeah, we don't even
have
a justice system.
But you understand, if you understand where they're coming from, it's deliberate.
Right.
It's deliberate. It's meant to break it. It's meant to collapse.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that, Mario?
So that they can build it back the way they want it.
Build back better. Ha, ha, ha.
They build it back in a way that goes, when they say things like nobody should be in jail, that we need to send caseworkers to domestic violence situations. That's a utopian, unicorns in the rainbow policy.
Yes.
Right.
You know what you notice? There are all these lofty people that get these fancy degrees from Stanford and Harvard, and they're young and they're coming back with these ideas talking about, well, I'm an immigrant, but they equate being an immigrant with being a criminal.
Right.
Well, I'm poor, the criminal's poor, so therefore he needs to get out too, like if it were me. Hold on a second, you worked yourself through poverty. The criminal is still taking advantage of that card.
That's right.
Wow.
But they equate that the same way. That's why when it gets stressed under race, I am the kryptonite to that because I'm Latino and I can speak my own voice.
Right.
Because Black people don't have the market cornered on persecution. We still pick vegetables and fruit in the field now.
Right.
We're migrant workers. We get paid by the case, by the load. We don't get paid by the hour.
Well, speaking of, listen, Mario, did you see that this whole, open border and all these illegals and they're moving them and busing them to out of state, right? So Did you happen to watch where Nancy Pelosi came on the news and said, "Oh, we're getting calls from Florida, and the farmers are asking us why are we shipping?" Listen, do you know how offensive that was to literally say that our people are being shipped like we're a package and you just throw us in a box and you ship us to New York? And then she said, "Oh, because they need crop pickers," like as if that's all that we are. We're not just, I mean, listen, our people are still working crops. And yeah, that may be true, but that's not all we are. And we're not just yardmen and we're not just housekeepers. You got a business. I'm a successful, I think, person. I'm degreed. I'm a chief strategist for an organization and I'm over 9 states. I mean, you know, my husband's in law enforcement. I mean, we have people who are attorneys, doctors. Right. We have tons. I mean, what they're saying that we don't have the capacity to do anything but clean a house, mow a yard, and crop pick. That's offensive.
Look at the viewpoint of the Democrats when they had them arrive in Martha's Vineyard and how quickly they had the National Guard get them off the island.
Exactly.
I'm like, come on, this is so offensive.
Our society truly, you're right, Mario. Our society truly is being attacked. All of the values on what America stands for, how this country became what it is. People are fleeing other countries to come here because of what we are. But our own people inside this country is literally contributing to the demise of our country. They really want to take us down. You know, and I don't know if you guys watch Steve Bannon, but Steve Bannon is always talking about, all he does is punch back at the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party, I don't know if y'all heard, but they actually opened up their own police department in New York. Did you know that the Chinese Communist Party has their own police department? Did you know that the Chinese Communist Party bought up over 80,000 acres of land over in West Texas?
Yep.
We have a real problem in the United States. You have a lot of things happening. And one of the other things that he talks about a lot is this uniparty system. You got Democrats and Republicans at the top that actually work together. Okay, they make these little deals behind closed doors. And guess who suffers, Mario and Chris? Who suffers? People like us, just real people that are just waking up in the morning, going to work, trying to get our kids to school. They're trying to get them educated. We just want better lives for them. We end up suffering in the end.
And then we all sit there going, how did this happen? How did we have so-and-so lose an election when they were clearly leading? And where did these extra votes come from? And it's the chimichanga that goes on that you go, whoa, hang on now. What kind of deals are being made behind the scenes that are affecting these greater problems, all because somebody read a white paper somewhere?
They've all sold this out. They've all sold this out. That's why they keeping us stupid and ignorant works for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they keep us fighting amongst ourselves about who's got what and how much, then you never pay attention to the guy that's ripping you off.
Just like the Occupy movement.
He's got his hand in your back pocket while you're out here with your fist fighting the other guy that's not stealing anything from you.
Exactly.
But he tricked you into thinking.
I think you guys, to let you know, the spirit of America, people are waking up out there. We I just posted on TikTok a video of the Christian Muslims in Newborn, Michigan.
Dearborn, Michigan, yeah. I saw that video, yeah.
And they said, vote them out. A group of men, the room was packed wall to wall. They vote these people out. And they said, we don't want this crap in our schools. These Muslims are saying, we don't want this CRT. And you're not going to tell my kid that they can go to my daughter to go to the boys' restroom. And you're like, this has gone so far that I think people are waking up and saying, you know what? First of all, I think you're right. Somebody's selling us out. We're being taken advantage. People are lying to us. They've created this environment to pitch us against each other to fight. First it was like, hey, fight. Ooh, Republican, Democrat, fight. And then it became about skin color. Fight. Divide everybody. Oh, now let's go after this LGBTQ. Everybody fight. Oh, you're coming against the unicorn people. You're coming against the one that wants to be the moon, the stars, and it's like divide everybody. And so then you pitch them against each other, and all this society has just become a cesspool of just fighting. And then in the meantime, we're over here all fighting. And then they're up here doing whatever they want, destroying our country, destroying the system that, maybe wasn't perfect, but they're still destroying it. And then this is what we have now is lawlessness, people in office that probably maybe shouldn't have been in office.
Correct.
We have, we call it selections, not elections.
Mhm.
And I say this on both sides of the spectrum, guys. I'm not blaming one or the other. People seem to forget. They say, oh, that's an election denier. Well, Trump has if this is what he believes, that's what he believes. If he has evidence, he feels he has evidence. Back in 2016, Hillary said the same thing. She said it. All the Democrats are saying it. They stole our election. Why are we not? Okay, listen, guys. If the Democrats said it
They
back
made
in
movies about it.
yeah, if it did happen in 2016, people stop with the whole party thing. Can you just set that aside and go, wait a minute, hold on a second. Hold on, people. Let's think about it. Hillary Clinton said in 2016. Trump is now saying it in 2020. Can we come back to the table and go, something seriously wrong here? Okay, this has nothing to do with the Republican versus Democrat. It has to do with we have a system that's flawed. Obviously, if this side said it and this side said it, there's something wrong. I don't think they were just trying to make crap up. We just didn't pay attention to it in 2016 because we were like, nah, she crazy. She just lost. And then that's what they're saying now. Oh, he's just crazy. He lost.
Well, we have
Well,
a solution, and the solution is we're finally able to break around through programs like yours where we can get the truth out there and
yes.
get people to listen to facts and not have stuff being throttled back by a major social media firm or being throttled back by mainstream media. We have ways to break around that, and through education and explaining the process overall from a high level position and then getting into the weeds on these evidence, people can then think for themselves and then start to coalesce on rational solutions to these problems.
I think tonight's podcast was super important because I guarantee you that our patriots, again, I'm telling you, they do not know that you two people in the local, that what pivotal part you play in the whole system. I guarantee you, Mario, they didn't know what a bondsman's job really was, the risk that you take and how you contribute to the whole criminal justice system. I guarantee that. This is kind of what's happened within the school board. This is why the parents are all in uproar because, that they started to find out. Now you see parents super getting involved in school boards, going to school boards. So, but what happened is, again, Chris, because people created, there's all kinds of new platforms out there. I'm live on Getter right now. If you guys don't know about Getter is, I call it better. I do not get censored. We're about 500 plus right now live, and it just, and the people that don't tune in, they come back on Saturday, Sunday and listen to what I had to say. And then, I'm super censored on Facebook. I'm super censored on Facebook, but we are live on Facebook. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Patriot TV Live. They stream me every, it's, again, we have to go around the system. We upload to Rumble. We're on YouTube. And then, of course, like I said, we're on Getter. So I am on multiple platforms right now to make sure. This is how sad, but I can't just go to one platform and rely that that's going to get my message out. Now I have to stream across the board in all kinds of platforms to hope that our message gets out. But I guarantee you, this is what we need. What is it that patriots can do, guys? Mario, I'm going to ask you this because you're running for office, Chris. But Mario, I'm going to ask you this. What can people, Americans, just the average citizen, what can they do? Because this is obviously, look, this is happening across the country here in Harris County, this whole taking the bondsman out of the system. And there was a court case. So what are we going to have to do to challenge this and get this back up and running? How are we going to be able to help bondsmen? What do we need to do?
Well, first of all, whether you help bondsmen or not, you cannot pervert or bastardize the Constitution.
Right.
That's what they tell you things are unconstitutional that are not. Bail was never ruled unconstitutional. You got court appeal opinions saying defendants do not have a right to be free from a wealth-based detention, i.e., they don't have a right to affordable bail. Do not let some minority who's a judge make you think that he knows more about the law and he's going to tell you, oh, my hands are tied. I can't do this and I can't do that. When that is an absolute lie. Do not Read for yourself. And if you don't know, break out a dictionary. I do it all the time. I break it down for people in layman's terms. And I tell them, bail is not ruled. It's part of the due process.
They actually won that case in Dallas, and in Democrat Dallas, they actually won that case. And so what Mario is a champion for is, hey, let's get a reset on this. Let's throw out the bums at commissioner's court so that we can get this back in court and have the judge actually rule on the merits and have it thrown out like it was in Dallas on the merits. And then we can get back to brass tacks where Mario is policing his own business. And he didn't mention this earlier, but he took some hits because there were some bad apples. But as he was mentioning through his story about how we have to police our own, he did police his own. And he took the hits for it, but the industry is better for it in Harris County because he did his job.
And Chris, let me ask you this. When you say take it back to, are you talking about the commissioner's court? Or are you talking about like the district clerk's court, federal court? Where does this need to go to be thrown out what they did in Dallas?
In federal court.
So
Mario, we can't hear you yet. In federal court.
Okay.
And so this was tried 2 different cases. One was in Dallas and then one was in Harris County. And the Dallas case went all the way to the top and was found that it was unconstitutional the way that the Democrats are trying to do it, and that the status quo was the correct way to do it. And in Harris County, they rolled over because as soon as everybody got swept out from straight ticket voting that existed at that time, the new commissioners on day one said, okay, we settle. We're going to give ourselves everything that we asked for.
So that's an interesting thing to say. You're saying commissioner's court. You know.
Oh well, I didn't explain that for the audience. In Texas,
because
we have the county is run kind of like a city council. We have a mayor that's called a county judge, ironically, who has no judge duties in the larger counties, and then we have commissioners who are in charge of divided land precincts, and they control it like a fiefdom, but it is call it a city council strong form of government, but don't call it city council, call it commissioner's court. Right.
So commissioner's court. So that's, and right now, as you guys see, we're, have, Lena Hidalgo, who is being challenged right now.
Yes.
I'm going to bring up this, I want to talk about this and get y'all's reaction on this tonight. Hang on a second here. Let me see if I can get this.
And while you're loading that, I mean, I felt sorry for her, but she has decided that she knows best and will take no advice from anybody.
Yeah,
That's Republican. Excuse me.
Yeah.
She did it to herself.
I'm trying to see why it's not
what Bianca's trying to show you.
We're gonna take we're gonna take
All right, so you saw Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo booed by law enforcement officers. This is as she was leaving Commissioner's Court because she said she was feeling sick. Well, deputy constables showed up by the dozens with a message that they were hoping would be heard. Fox 26's
by the dozens.
Getting us live from Commissioner's Court with more on what unfolded there today. Gabby.
It was not dozens. It was
by
the score. There was over 200 individual officers that showed up to that event. And I'm trying to pull up a screenshot of that because Constable Ted Heap had a great social media post where they showed up in mass saying, look, you took our money. We are underfunded. We do not have the manpower to stop this crime. Never mind the fact that the judges aren't doing their job. But even if the judges were doing their job, we don't have the manpower to stop the now spiked crime out there with over 150,000 pending cases. It's so they demanded that get restored and that they stop wasting the money on programs that have nothing to do with the core functions of Commissioner's Court. These are great programs in and of themselves, and they sound great in isolation. But then you go, well, wait a minute. is this the duty of this particular government agency? It would be like if the district clerk's office suddenly decided that we were going to be a surgery center, and we might have the best employees going to med school to be a surgery center. But is that the purpose of a district clerk's office? No. That's like trying to hire an accountant to be an engineer. What are you doing? No, no, no. So yet you have the county wasting millions on these kinds of programs, and they've blown through their budget to the point that they're now trying to pass a multi-billion-dollar bond in addition to a tax hike to cover their butts. Can I say that?
So I'm
To
gonna,
cover their rears.
and Mario, you said, look, she did it to herself. You know, look, I'm no fan of Lena Hidalgo and never have been. But I will tell you that I do see this happening, and I actually do feel sorry for her. I feel that she is one of those, listen, and I'm going to use this word very lightly. She's kind of the victim of the system. Okay. They propped her up. They propped her up, right? The Latina, we want a Latina in office. They propped her up, set her up for massive failure.
Yep.
Massive failure. And I know that she won kind of by accident. She won under the whole Beto sweep the state kind of thing.
Correct.
And they weren't really expecting that she was going to win. However, the system set her up for failure. And here she is now. And now nobody likes her. She's not probably going to win again. And this is going to, instead of like, you know, mentoring her to become more than just this, now we're going to have another failed Latina out there that had a real possible chance of maybe, you know, doing something, right? But their policies, they take on these policies. And I'm like, what do you expect when you're being coached to take on these policies and they set you up for failure? And now what I see is her party is pretty much hanging her out to dry. No one's coming to her savior right now. You don't see all these people like they were during COVID. She would go out there and she'd make these statements, and she'd have all these people, you know, just behind her. And I'm like, you know, where are all those people now? Well, how come y'all are not right back there trying to help her and boost her up or anything? Now it's like, oh, no. Nobody wants anything to do with it. And I almost feel sorry for her. But yeah, you're right, Mario. She brought it upon herself.
Every party will eat its own.
Yes.
True.
And I saw judges in this that were Democrats. They got eaten up by the Democratic Party because they weren't left enough.
That's right.
And a lot of judges lost their primaries here.
Yes.
I'll name names. Daryl Moore was one of the best judges that the 333rd had as a Democrat, replacing Tad Hallback. And he got less than 30% in his own primary. Why? Because he wasn't left enough. He was doing too good of a job. And that's sad.
So you guys are right. This is what we're challenged with. I'm going to play this right now. I want to get y'all's, feedback on what you think about this. Apparently, you know, as y'all know, the Houston Chronicle is
liberal. Houston Chronicle.
Very liberal. And here they are. They've now endorsed Alexandra de Moral to unseat Lena Hidalgo. And listen to this right here. If you guys haven't seen it or heard it, but let's take a listen here real quick. Let me go back.
And this is, I believe,
international national issue. But when there's dysfunction in your own county government, which we've seen by the rise of repeat violent offenders, you stay silent. You've never called a fair ball. At this point with your budget, it is the most hyper-partisan. You canceled the evacuation boats in Commissioner Ramsey's district, funded by his precinct to punish him, to punish his residents. It's supposed to represent all of Harris County. When you do those kind of tactics in the middle of storm season, it's pathetic and offensive. That is the difference, is that you are so busy trying to figure out what your next political career is, mimic the talking points, that you're not interacting. You know, you cannot pick up a phone and call a Republican that I'm aware of, let alone unite your own party. Lena Hidalgo's budget is grown over 40% in spending. So we've funded all sorts of new programs. You said your biggest priority is early childhood education. And so you're adding all of these new programs, but yet we've just said the jail's a mess, the backlog, and we've acknowledged that, yes, because of overtime, additional law enforcement crime was going down. You're the person that chose to deny over 80% of their budget requests last year. Those are funding choices. What I would do is get back to those core services. If you're a good engineer, I don't care what party you are. Just be a good engineer. That's what's changed about this county. And the judge is the one that's got to call. But
It's sad, but that's not isolated. When the current district clerk took office, she fired over 60 employees on day one, up to 80 employees net after 3 months. And you go, why? This is institutional knowledge. Most of those people were Democrats, minority Democrats, and you fired them anyway. Why? Because you thought they were loyal to me? No, you need to just not have this mindset where you're just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and do what's best. It's public service. It's not public aggrandizement. It's public service. And
right. That's Mario. What was your take on that? Kind of, we've been touching on these points of what Alexandra's basically saying in that interview with the Houston Chronicle, and she just kind of sat there and she played with her hair and she just drank water. I mean, what else was she was getting her butt handed to her? What's your take on that? We didn't get to see what she spoke about, but that was just a clip that's been released on social media. So we got to see what happened.
I watched the whole thing, actually.
You did? Okay.
And so what I found was that Lena kept harping on, I'm proud of what I've done. And I'm proud of what I've done. And I kept thinking, lady, you have a team.
Right.
And you didn't thank one person. You didn't name one name of Bob so-and-so. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have gotten everything done. So you see how selfish, and she takes all this credit, and how proud she is of herself. And that speaks volumes. Mm-hmm. Not only that, we're human. And when you're human, and what most voters want to hear is, hey, I'm human and I made a mistake. And You know what? I could have done a better job, but if you elect me again and give me more time, you know what? Bail reform was a disaster. You know what? I started off thinking it was going to help. And you know what? Like the way Kim Ogg did, she admitted that it didn't work. She had the big enough, and no DA in any state has done that. She's the only one today that has come out as a Democrat and said, bail reform, I started out believing it was one thing, and now I see it for what it is. I was wrong.
Let's put that in context for our listeners. She was a George Soros recipient of millions of dollars in campaign money in 2016 to become the DA in Harris County, and was told a bunch of lies. And as she took office, this former Republican who was running as a Democrat realized very quickly that she had been fed a bunch of lies. And that for the sake of the very county that she lived in, she had to backpedal and go and do the right thing.
Lena is an example of, like I said, I know what you're saying about feeling bad for her. Yep. Absolutely. But my advice to somebody like that was, you're a victim of your lack of wisdom.
Exactly.
Right. Which is why you surround yourself with people. See, the greatest thing about wisdom is you know when to listen.
Yes.
Right.
And somebody who started a business and was arrogant and let it all go to my head, as I got older, I realized I'm running off the people that I care about. Because I'm stubborn and I'm being a prick and I think I know everything. And then I got old enough to go, you know what? I better know when to listen. Because otherwise, I'm not going to have a business too much longer.
Right. That's wisdom.
That's wisdom. Adrian and Rodney should have been the ones to give her that, but they're corrupt themselves, and they got nothing to give.
That's what I'm saying. It's about they didn't surround her with a good team of, okay, hey, you're new, you really don't know what you're going to do. So let's find the best people out there, and we're going to surround you with a good team so that you can make good decisions. But that's not the case, and that's a very horrible sign of leadership when
Bianca,
you're right, Mario, to say that she sat there and said, oh, I did.
The business community tried, and they tried 6 different ways from Sunday to try to get a hold of her and say, look, we have this experience. We'll give you the knowledge for free. We will shadow you for free. We will do whatever you want us to do for free. And instead, not only did she turn their back on them, but those same business leaders then got punished for it in their own primaries when they decided they wanted to try to fix the mess themselves. Vidal Martinez, for example.
Right. Well, I think, you guys, we've got Maria Salinas Miller that was on Facebook Live saying, hey, hi, she's been in charge of the state of Texas and working for an initiative, to make sure that we're recruiting poll watchers and poll workers, across the board, just to make sure that, there is people that are working. Our parties don't do the best job either to make sure that there's people working. A lot of the times, a lot of the precincts or the polling locations do go with like minimal employees. Guys, and I will tell y'all, I've started at the bottom. I was a precinct chair. I was a presiding judge and was up until like last year in December when I stepped down. But I've run elections. I have also been an alternate judge to go help people run elections. So I know the process. That when I showed up to be an alternate judge, it was just me, the judge, and she had one other person helping us set up the machines. She could have hired, I think they gave us 5 or 7 staff, right? All we had was just 3 of us to run the whole precinct, or the location. So do you see? So people want to say, oh yeah, well, they get all offended. I'm like, why are you offended? When you get offended about something, that means, what are you trying to hide? If you don't hide, you'd be like, oh my God, thank goodness I'm going to get help, because we're over here with 3 people running a polling location. And instead of saying, thank you, yay, we're going to have people to help us work, instead you're going to sit there and complain and be like, well, you're suppressing the vote. No one's suppressing the vote. We just want fair and balanced elections. We want to make sure that we're staffing our polling locations and that we have help across the board. So she's been doing a really good job. She's gotten a lot of poll watchers and poll workers trained to work this election cycle. So guys, we're trying our best out here as activists, trying to do a lot of good work. So Maria Salinas Miller, thank you for all what you've done. She's been working on not just Harris County, but she's been working across other counties in the state of Texas. And so some of our other people say, and Maria says, thank you, Chris Daniel, in your campaign for assisting with the appointment letters for poll watchers. We weren't doing that. That was one of the things. I travel a lot around the country, but even through the state of Texas, I will tell you, there's people that came up to me in Dallas, in the Dallas area, and they said, they were like, hey, we wanted to get involved. We've been calling the party. There were Republicans. I'm just going to say they're Republicans. These were people. We've been trying to call the party. We're trying to get, we want to be poll watchers, poll workers. No one calls us back. When they finally got someone on the line, they told them, oh, we have it all covered. We have enough workers. I said, there is never enough workers.
No.
And you all know, it's like when you do a quinceañera or whatever, right? And you invite 100 people and 50 people show up. It's the same thing with these volunteer positions. You can say, oh, I got it all staffed. But at the last minute, somebody gets sick. They can't go. Find somebody to take care of their kid. Something comes up. They don't show up, or they just decide, I don't want to do it. Whatever it is, you have to have so this is what's good is that, Chris, I have told people, when you get told there's enough people, please find a candidate. I guarantee you, candidates need your help. Tell them, I'm willing to go and poll watch. I'm willing to go and work in an election. I'm willing to go do something. Can I go and work on behalf of your campaign just so that I can go and be there? So that breaks me into this next segment, and I'm going to have you close out here in a minute, Mario. But I want Chris, I want you to tell us, what are just review what you're running on.
Sure.
What you're going to bring to the table, and how can people find you?
So I'm running as the district clerk of Harris County. That's the clerk of the courts for you out-of-staters. And I'm running on pushing technology back into the courthouse. As an engineer and a lawyer, I have the viewpoint of not only the core constituents of the office, but also the ability to have that customer service mindset from my past elected experience on the board of trustees for a community college. And so I'm not only bringing that solid management experience back, but transparency. We're going to make sure that the system works, that it functions on its core duties, and that you, the public, have full transparency of what's going on at the courthouse. I am available on Facebook and social media. That's at Daniel, the number 4 clerk. And that's on everything. That's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and more. And then I also have a website. That's www.chrisdaniel.org, www.chrisdaniel.org.
So you guys heard that, Chris. You know how to go find him on social media, and also how to go find him on his website. For those of you on my Getter, or just even on any of this, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Guys, go buy Chris. This is what I always say. Go buy him a cup of coffee for the week. Give him $5, $10, get him a cup of coffee. That cup of coffee turns into 2-3 yard signs, helps him out with whatever it is that he needs. Maybe he's, look, text messaging has become a very good, powerful way of making sure you get out the vote. We're in get out the vote mentality right now, as we're in crunch time before early voting starts. And, it costs, I don't know, 12 cents or 15 cents, depending on what you're sending out in a text message. Can you think about giving him $5? That's like so many text messages that he can send out to people in the county, reminding them to go vote. So guys, just go buy him a cup of coffee. I don't think Chris is asking for $1 million, but you know what? If you have the $1 million though, send it his way if you feel like you need to do it. But buy him
We'll
a
give
cup
you the
of
full
coffee.
budget. It's going to cost us $16,000 in order to do the text messaging and the robocalls for just the independents in Harris County.
So there you go, guys. That's our goal right there, $1,600, guys. So if you buy him a cup of coffee, that goes to that. It's a good cause, and I see that Mario here is eager to work with Chris and get him back into office, because even he knows that our system is broken, and he's out here speaking out. And we want to make sure that, all of our small business owners, who are the true fabric of America, we contribute to this country. We contribute to our communities, and we want to make sure that we keep our small businesses employed. We do not want to become a utopia. We want to have our small businesses involved. So Mario, let us know if there's, I don't know if you're on social media, if you want people following you, but, give us some last words here on your behalf.
My last words are, regardless of your partisanship, I want everybody to be safe. I don't want anybody to be dead. And I don't want anybody to be victimized. We can disagree on everything else, but we can't disagree if you're dead.
That's right. What's the name of your company, Mario, and what's the telephone number?
First Advantage Bail Bonds, 713-847-9902. And you can find me, Mario Garza, on Facebook.
You guys heard that. If you're ever in trouble, I listen, this guy's earned my respect today, Mario Garza. Call his office. If you know someone else that's in trouble, call Mario Garza's office, and he is more than willing to help you, your family, or a friend or loved one or somebody, because Lord knows there's people out there that do get in trouble. And Mario seems like a very upstanding gentleman who's overcome. He's an overcomer, guys. And you know what? In America, we love overcomers. We love that we are not treated as victims. He's an overcomer. He's running a legitimate business out there. We want to make sure that we promote him. If you ever know of anybody else, say, hey, you know what? I remember some guy in Harris County, Mario Garza. Look him up. Look up his First Advantage, business. And also he's president representing the Bondsman Association. That's huge there. And Chris, on behalf of Stand Up, Stand Out America here, we are very glad that you came on tonight. I think this is such a great conversation. I'm used to, interviewing people from across the country, but I love that I brought it back home. I love that I'm talking to people here in Harris County, and the things that you guys are doing out there, obviously, affect me and my quality of life here in Harris County. So I so appreciate y'all doing what you do. And you know what? Stay out there. And guys, to go look up Chris Daniel if you know anybody in Harris County. And those of you that are here listening from in the Houston area, in the Harris County area, you know who to go vote for. We are totally supporting Chris Daniel. And if you, like I said, get it out to your familia, your friends, any other patriots. All of you have a whole big plethora of followings.
Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
We're going to steal that back, Mario. By the way, I'm stealing the rainbow back, and I'm stealing Si Se Puede. I'm stealing it all back. That's right, because Si Se Puede, right? Puro
Somos republicanos.
Puro Tejano. We're going to cut like little pieces of this podcast, guys, and do like a 30-second. I do 30-second. And what I do is I upload them into TikTok. I've got a huge Tejano following in Harris County, San Antonio, the Rio Grande Valley, El Paso. I'm even got Chicanos and the low riders out in LA. They're following me on TikTok, man. We went viral. We've gone viral three times since July. And so we started building up our TikTok channel. We are united.tap. And I just did the last one that I just did. I broke 1 million views.
Wow.
So TikTok is hot. So know that I'm going to get some good talking points, cut it to 30 seconds and upload them to TikTok to get the message out. So I thank you for you guys for what you do. Thank you for coming out on a Friday night. I really appreciate you guys. Peace out, guys. Again, live today, tonight was Stand Up, Stand Out, La Conservadora, Tejana, Bianca, Gracia. Until next Friday, guys, we will see you soon.
Ciao.
Bye.